Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Short Term Rental Riches podcast. Excited to have yet another fellow podcaster on today. Today, we have Luke Carl. He's the host of the Short Term Rental Management podcast, which is very near and dear to our hearts on this channel, providing a lot of good advice. He's also the director of the education for the Short Term Shop. Luke, welcome to the show.
My pleasure, man. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. Can you give us a little bit of background?
Yeah. So I'm probably better known as Avery Carl's husband. And we started the journey together years and years ago. We bought our first house before we even got married, and it just was a natural fit. I remember very early when I first met her. She was 24 or something like that, and she said, I think I want to get my real estate license. And I was like, what is that? I don't even what is that? And I was like, okay, cool. And she actually didn't do it at the time, but we revisited that later. We moved a couple of times and things like that. But yeah, it ended up being obviously a pretty good deal for her. Pretty huge in the world of agents and selling real estate. And of course, the short-term shop was born somewhere in that process. And kind of even before that, when we started buying a few rental properties of our own, didn't really know anything about it. It was before we'd ever discovered, Bigger Pockets or Rich Dad or anything like that. And just kind of jumped in, man. And I come from a background of fairly do-it-yourself type of a family. And so we bought a couple of long terms and then branched out into short term, just kind of on accident. Really, it was natural evolution. It was the next town over was Gatlinburg, and it worked out. And I still to this day I have the longest running Airbnb. Two of them actually, the two longest running Airbnbs in Gatlinburg in the Pigeon Forge, Smoky Mountain area.
That's awesome.
And it just kind of went nuts from there. We were early adopters. I've been on Airbnb since 2011. And I never really thought of it that way. I was just buying more houses. And they just happened to be, you put them on Vrbo instead of Zillow to rent. And of course today I still love long terms. Absolutely. I have apartment buildings. I have way more long terms than I do the short terms, but they're still the cornerstone of the whole thing. And now as we get older, man, the cool part is we really appreciate the short terms more now than ever, like exponentially more now because of all the, the debt pay down over the years, and they're not as stressful anymore for multiple reasons. We're not like leveraged as much as we used to be, and that's nice. It's a very good feeling. And also primarily because we have grown as, getting a little older, and we have a family now, and we can go use these things, and that is awesome. And used to be back in the day, we would go, but we were never really in a situation where we could enjoy. Because you're killing yourself all day, every day to get to where you're trying to look for in life. And, the old quote, do what no one will do now so that you can live like no one later, that kind of thing. But yeah, so for me, man, it's been an incredible journey. And really, I'm loving the short terms now way more than ever.
That's great. That's great. Well, if for anyone that missed the episode we did recently with Avery Carl, go make sure you go back and check that out. And Luke, so let's see. So you got a bunch of units, long-term and short-term. Can you give us a little idea what your portfolio looks like today?
Yeah, it's a little everything, man. I've got a lot of single family long terms in a couple different markets in the South. We live in the South. Avery, I think, would call the South the Panhandle of Florida. She says anything else outside of the Panhandle is not the South. Of course, she's born and raised in the deep South, so I listen to what she says. I'm not. I'm originally Midwestern, but a couple of different towns in the South, in Tennessee and Alabama. I've got long terms and duplexes, single families and duplexes. And I try to stick to decent school districts, that kind of thing. Maybe $1,500 a month on those bad boys. And then I have apartments. I've got several apartment buildings in my hometown of Omaha, Nebraska. Go Big Red. And then I've got the short terms. I've got 8 short terms. Like I said, I've had most of them for quite some time. I did buy 2 in the past, maybe 2 years. And I actually exchanged a couple at one point. I exchanged some smaller ones for some larger ones. And I still do have some small ones. But yeah, that's kind of a mix, the mix across the board, somewhere around 300 units.
Awesome. That's amazing. That's amazing. And do you manage all of them yourself, including the long-term ones as well?
I don't know, but I have. When I first started, again, I'm the kind of guy, my dad, he was a Army, Vietnam vet, and he was a, tough guy, kind of mailman. He was a mailman, but so like low blue collar, but get things done kind of guy. And so, he taught me how to change the brakes in his truck when I was like 6 years old. And that's just how I was raised. And so when we first started in real estate, it never crossed my mind to hire a manager. Just would never be something that I could imagine. We didn't have the money, I'm 10% for what, like that kind of thing. And then as time went by, and I did self-manage my short term or my long terms until I had, I think, somewhere in the around 30 doors. And then we moved was the catalyst there. And things started, we were starting to build our way out of, into a more financially sound life. And we moved to Florida from Tennessee, and it was just a natural. At the time, my long terms were all in Chattanooga, which I do still own those. And that's what it was, just a timing thing. It was like, okay, it's time. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to be further away. I was managing my long terms from a distance, and with success. I built a team. I had guys working for me that would do the rehab. One guy, in particular. You get to 20, 30 properties in the same town, you kind of get a little, network going there. And
for sure,
it worked out pretty well. But eventually I did put on third-party property management, and I deal with 5 third-party property managers right now in 4 different states. And I do the short terms in-house. I'm very much involved with the short terms. I have a team, obviously, very similar to what you have, that I built out over the years. I went through many people to get to where, it's hard. Hiring and firing is hard. But a wonderful team right now. I'm very proud of all the I only have two full-timers, and 3 if you count the bookkeeper, and he's in-house. And I'm very much involved. I mean, I'm not sitting there responding to guests, of course. But I don't have the apps on my phone. I think that, that was a big event in my life where I'm not looking at the apps anymore. And I do still have I use Hospitable, so I have that, but no Airbnb Verbo, get it out, or no notifications. And but I still know every now and then I know like the guest name, and we talk about, you gossip within, the organization of the, man, can you imagine? Mary Beth did this weird thing over here at this house, and I'm definitely involved in that, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I love that you're in it too. I mean, you're coming from the perfect place to be able to teach about it, right? And so a lot of great content on your podcast. I think one of the things that's exciting and that you've touched on here is that it's just easier to manage things virtually now. And it doesn't have to be like one set way. I mean, we can decide which parts of it we want to do. We can outsource the other parts to other team members. So I think in general, it's just gotten a lot easier, and that's exciting for me. We can do this anywhere, but there's definitely challenges, right? And so just curious to hear from you, what have been some of your biggest challenges managing more specifically the short-term rentals remotely?
Well, I mean, it never ends, man. It's just the life of a landlord, though. Even with, I really think, and I think you'll agree with me, people got to get over the distance thing. It really isn't a factor. I'm not going to go look at this thing, even if it's right down the street. I'm going to contradict myself. I'll stop by once a year, but I'll make a trip out of it, right? So all my houses are kind of in clumps in my apartments. So I'll make a trip out of it, go see my folks in Omaha, and I'm going to go run every one of those properties. Of course, you're not walking, if there's a lockbox on a unit, you go in, obviously. And my property manager has the same code on every lockbox, and so I don't even have to bother them. If I just show up, oh, that unit's got a lockbox on it, I'll walk it, and then I'll text them and say, dude, what the hell? How come there's no carpet in here or whatever? Why are you not working on this unit?
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, I don't know if it's just the way we've always lived our lives is to be fairly virtual. My back when I had a job, I came up in broadcasting. As a matter of fact, I had a long career in radio and rock and roll radio, with Sirius XM, and I still do that. I moonlight occasionally on the weekends. That was virtual as well too, and
That's great.
Avery's always been.
About time we had a professional radio voice on this show, because the last 200 episodes or whatever have not been. So thank you for that.
Yeah. It's just second nature for me. I just talked rock and roll. I mean, I still do it, for fun. I don't have time to do it full time anymore, but yes. So we just always been virtual. To me, it was like, I can't really explain it. If you're worried about that, get over it. It's just not that big a deal. In other words, you're going to have to send the plumber back out to fix what he did wrong the first time, even if the house is next door or if it's 6 states away. To me, it's just old hat. It's just part of the gig. I don't really have much of a better explanation than that.
Yeah. No, and that's the reality, though. It's, I think we just need to get over this remote management thing. I mean, that's just the reality now. And for anyone that wants to manage any property, if it's too far to drive to, which could be for you, an hour away, then you're managing it remotely, right? And so it doesn't really matter the distance that we put in between it if we're already at the point that we can't just step over to it. I think for us, some of the big challenges have been housekeeping, of course, and maintenance. And we got to make sure our properties are always in good shape. Do you have a couple just pointers around what you guys look for, or maybe how you go about finding your housekeepers?
Yeah. It's gotten a lot easier. I hate to use that word, but you've been doing this a long time. And when we first started, back, guys like us were pioneers, housekeepers were looking at us funny. Like, wait a minute, what do you mean? You own this house? Like they didn't even understand what we were trying to do here, And they were almost like you had to go find the people that were sick of working for the property managers. And most of them were not willing to do that because they liked the cushy gig of having a solid calendar and having somebody to check in with that was going to hand them towels. And a lot of times they even had their own vehicle from the company, or a vehicle that they could have access to at least. And you kind of had to ask nicely, hey, take a chance on me here. I think I'm going to make a go of this. And they're like, you're going to put this thing on what and do what with it? It doesn't make any sense. And now that's all gone. The stigma's gone. Everybody knows hell, Verbo's been around for 29, 30 years, and Airbnb's been around long enough now where it's not like this weird thing that's unheard of. And we saw that in the education space as well, in the influencer space. It was all of a sudden, it was like, oh, there's this new thing. Let's go take it over. And everybody's got their own podcasts and all this other crazy TikTok stuff, But now everything's settled down. And it's normal now. It's a normal thing in the world of real estate. I mean, and when Avery and I first started, when she, it was really her. And then she got to the point where basically all of her clients were asking a million management questions, and that's how she would just pawn them off on me, and I was happy to do it. And that's kind of how the short-term shop was born. So I teach classes for the clients and stuff. And what was my point? So now nobody looks at it as weird. It's like, oh, Airbnb, I know what that is. It's totally normal. It's not like this weird thing where everybody feels like they're walking on the moon. We're just renting a house, and instead of renting for 12 months, you're renting for 3 days. It's been going on since the beginning of time, but it's just taken so long for people to realize, oh, wait a minute, this isn't rocket science. Anyway, back to the cleaners. When you're contacting them, it's a normal deal now, and they know, okay, I think I can take on another owner, 2 owners, 3 owners, and then maybe I'll keep half of my houses with a property manager. And of course, Turno seems to be gaining some traction. I've never personally used the marketplace on there, but I hear great things.
Mm-hmm.
And then and Facebook groups, there's a million Facebook groups, but you got to get out there. The cleaners have always been a pain point, but it's no different than any other business on the planet. You're hiring and firing, and if you don't have any experience hiring and firing, you're going to suck at it. And that's where we see people fail. You sucked at hiring the housekeeper. You didn't even realize it was you. You blamed it on him or her. And now you're going to end up selling the house because it wasn't a good experience. I mean, it would be no different if you bought a gas station and you needed to hire a cashier and it didn't go well because you don't know what the hell you're doing to hire a housekeeper, hire a cashier. You can either give up and crawl into a ball and be a loser and sell the gas station, or you can go hire another cashier. And
well said.
Failure was not an option for me.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. I through the years, I've learned some of the same lessons there. It's we gotta. It's a skill hiring people, right? But it is nice. It is that it has gotten easier, like you said, because there are now services like Turno or Properly where someone could actually go to find housekeepers. And a lot of the housekeepers someone might find on there now is a professional housekeeping company, just for short-term rentals. Do you have a take on hiring a professional housekeeping company versus maybe just hiring someone independently?
I think that's a personal preference, and that has been going on since the early days. It also depends on your market, obviously. In the Smokies, for instance, there's really only like 2 or 3 kind of companies. Most of them are mom and pop. So as opposed to Florida, where I live outside of Destin, in the 30A area and the Emerald Coast, and most of them here are companies, and usually what that means is that somebody got good at it and get better at running a business, and then they bring on more people. So the problem there is you see all the time, and now since we're on the subject of housekeepers, here's the problem there. You get a girl who's really good, everybody wants her, and her phone blows up, and then all of a sudden she's got so many houses she can't keep up, and then she sucks. Right? Or he or she. And I see that constantly. So I'm always preaching to my cleaners. Luckily, again, if you have a few more properties in the same market, you have a little more pull, But I mean, it's not everybody can be Tim, and we can't all have 40 properties, and you know what I mean? It's like it's not possible in a lot of cases. I get that. But if you only have one, you really got to watch that culture. You got to like check in with her. That's my best advice. Just like any business, you got to have, once, even if it's once a quarter, give them a call, or at least somebody from, maybe I'll have the girl that handles my messages at least communicate. They're communicating almost every day, but I ask them, how many houses are you doing? And I ask them when I'm hiring them, how many houses do you have right now? 15. How many do you want? 47. Nah, ain't gonna work for me, because you're gonna get to 47 and everything's gonna completely crumble and you're gonna waste my time.
Yeah.
Because running a business could not be, in most cases, it's a lot different than cleaning a house, right? They're different things. Somebody who's really good at cleaning a house may not be that great at running a business. And then they think they are, or they want to be, and then they get up there and they're like, crap, managing these employees sucks. I'd rather clean the house. So then it goes back the other direction, so, and I see that all the time. I had one of my cleaners recently. She dumped like 6 properties because I told her 100 times, you're taking too many properties. You're taking too many properties. And I just check in with them and I make them be honest. I'm like, how many do you have right now? And I'm going to find out if you're not telling the truth, because they know when I hire them, when I'm doing my interview process, I want to know, do you want 47 properties or do you want 15? Now, the big giant company, there's definitely advantages there too. I don't have any of those right now. That's never really been a fit for me. But if you're the type of person that likes that vibe and you're willing to, maybe if it's $40 extra a turn or something, to have the security of them showing up and handling the sheets and towels, if that's what you want to do, I got no problem with that.
Yeah, I think one of the important things you said there basically is just we need to take care of them, right? I mean, we need to check in with them. If we found someone that's doing a good job for us, then we want to work with them as long as we can. And whether that's a professional housekeeping company or just an independent person on their own, that's always important. That's important for anyone that's on our team, right? Just making sure that things are transparent and that everyone's being taken care of. Well, good stuff there, Luke. What about, so you mentioned maintenance and that maybe once a year you stop in and check on things. Our maintenance with our short-term rentals is a little more involved than it is with our long-term rentals, right? Because we have furniture and stuff in there. And so what do you guys recommend for someone managing remotely in terms of making sure that their property is up to date?
Well, again, market specific, and in this case, when I say market specific, it's seasonality. If you're on the beach, like where we live, if this were, in a beach market, like say a Florida beach market, or even like a North Carolina beach market, you're going into battle, right? From like March 1st until probably mid October, give or take. And there's a little lull there in September and maybe in May. But you know, new mistake is to try and send housekeepers and handy people over there with every tiny little thing that a guest brings up. Can't do that. And now, keep in mind, I do want to say on an open forum, I love my guests. Okay, I love my guests. They are awesome. We are not in this business without them. I don't think that gets talked about often enough. The heart is, hardworking Americans that earned that vacation. Reminds me of being a kid, man. When we went on vacation, it was a huge deal. And we spent, my parents were spending every penny on that trip. So love my guests, love my guests. Now, that being said, of course, they drive us nuts, right? So the point is, if a guest is hitting you with this, that, and the other little detail, just kill them with kindness. Do your best. And I basically put a list together, and I have separate, I use like I use Trello on Monday.com, Asana, that kind of thing, or Breezeway would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Just, organizational tool, basically like something better than Post-it notes that, and I'll make lists, and I got like my off-season list. I'm doing that right now. Let me get to that. But like, if you got some stuff going on, there's a lot of that stuff can wait. Here's a good example. I did a rehab on one of mine in the off season, put it in service, brand new everything. Realized I forgot to do the microwave, and it's a built-in. And I started getting messages because the micro was actually broken. It works, but like you can't see the numbers on it. The touchpad is broken. So I started getting messages, and I'm like, crap. I did, I went and I got I like a nice appliances in my short terms. That's a big thing for me. They got to be nice, especially the washer and dryer. And the fridge doesn't need to be all that crazy. As a matter of fact, I don't even really like ice machines in a short term because it's too many things to break, and the stuff on the door, ice machines, a whole thing. But
one more thing to the appliances these days are just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Every additional thing you add on there, like a ice maker, it's one other thing that could break, just like you said. And when they're only lasting, 2 years these days, it's
dude, totally. You know what
ridiculous.
I mean? You got me on another tangent now, but I went to one of my rentals yesterday, and the couch looked like crap, and it's not even a year old. That's what drives me nuts when new people come in and they agonize over the couch they're buying. How much should I spend on this couch? So with this, that, where do I get it? Do I get it on Wayfair? Do I get it local? And I'm sitting there like, who cares? It's going to be trashed. You need to be making sure that your cleaner's sending you a picture of it every now and then to make sure that you don't need to go get another one. So, I would just go local store, get one on sale, have them deliver it, get it over with, But anyway, put a list together of all the stuff, and then have a handyman or whatever go over there and fix it all at once. And then also, because right now it's timely and topical to be talking about, we're shifting into winter season here in the beach and even in the mountains. And so I'll start walking my properties. I walked one of them yesterday, and I put a list together. I got my guy on my headphones, and I'm like, this. And it's the same crap every year, really. Paint the staircase, because the staircases get beat. If you got a sheetrock staircase in a vacation house, it's going to get trashed. Guaranteed. They're tracking up their suitcases. If you got white treads on there, dude, forget it. It's trash, and you got to get it repainted, and other stuff like swapping out a TV or whatever that needed, stuff that could wait, fixing the pool alarm or whatever it may be. I put that list together now. Again, I don't know when it's going to come out. We're recording this 1st of September, 23. So, if you put a list together in late summer, early fall, then you can start getting those folks scheduled to do the jobs in January, February, because that's another new mistake on multiple levels. Oh, just wait till January and do all that stuff. Okay, but if you waited till January to start calling around to find these dudes, they're booked until April, because that's in a vacation town. All the vendors are super busy with the bigger jobs. They're always busy, but with the bigger jobs in December, January, and February, even in Mountains Beach, wherever it may be. Again, I like vacation towns, right? And I live in one. It's a whole thing, but if you're like, sitting around saying, I'm going to do that in January, and you're not planning for that in September, October, it ain't going to happen, so that's what I like to do now. I don't even know what you asked me originally, to be honest, but that's what I'm psyched on that right now.
About plan. No, you're right on it. Planning maintenance. You're right.
Plan
on
maintenance.
Yeah.
I'm walking my properties. I love it. And I walk through and I'm like, oh yeah, this thing looks great, man. This looks way better than the guy next door. And I because my houses are nice, man. My houses are nice. I do not play around. You got to get those rehabs done. You got to have a nice house, because if you know how it is, man. Yeah. So many people, they just put it on the internet and think that they're going to get good reviews and make money, and it just doesn't work like that.
Mm-hmm. It's a slippery slope with maintenance too. You let one thing go, it creates a bad review, and then your visibility goes down. And so we got to make sure that we're on top of that. So good advice there, Luke. I want to ask you another question. I know, because you got a big portfolio of properties and a lot of them are different. What is your take on, or what's your preference, I guess, on a small property? Let's stick with the short-term rental theme here, but a small short-term rental versus a big one. Do you have a favorite?
I love them both. If you're brand new trying to pick, my recommendation would be go with whatever the budget is, working for. Because it's better not to, just don't wait. Again, we're living in a world where, let's be real, the market right now is freaking crazy. It's nuts out there. Nobody knows the interest rates doubled in a year. Everybody knows all that. But I'm finding in my markets that there are more deals right now. A lot of people are selling because there's a million people got involved. There's a metric rear end load of people that bought real estate, not even just short terms, but real estate 2021, 22. And I've heard this, I think it was from David Green, actually, a statistic: 50% of real estate gets sold in the first 12 months. So right now we're seeing the effects of that. People are dumping them because they're like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. It's not making money. And truth is, they didn't try because they're not you and I, and they're not obsessed, and I hate to say that because people crap on me. Well, like, well, yeah, of course you talk about you're doing well and blah, blah. I got people crapping on me lately for being successful. And I'm just like, no, man, why would you do that? Don't get out of my room. Get out of here. I'm not hanging out with losers. Let's David Lee Roth. Here's a quote. I'm going to give you a quote. It's lonely at the top because it's so crowded at the bottom. And I am not going to sit here and make excuses for why I'm doing well. And I'm not freaking Grant Cardone either. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't rolling around putting videos of my jet. I don't even know how we got on that subject. What was the question?
No, it's a really good point. I don't know either. We kind of went off there, but you're making a really good point. And it's that they're if someone wants to operate their short-term rental well, they can operate it well. If someone doesn't put in the time, then they either need to find someone that can help them with that, or unfortunately, it's probably not going to work out too well for them. So that's the reality, right?
It's like any business, though. It's any business. It's not just us. Don't pigeonhole. Don't pick on us. It's anything. Back to the grocery store, the gas station. What about got a clothing store? I do that analogy all the time. Pricing your property is it's like a clothing store. You got the new stuff comes in the beginning of the season, and it's hot and it's exciting and everybody wants it. And then by the end of the season, all you're left was with the crap that nobody wanted. So you need to blow that out, put it on sale, and get it gone. And a lot of people just don't. If you end the season with a bunch of jeans sitting on the table, you're probably going to lose your business. So, but yeah,
true.
People are selling right now. No, that was the point. The big ones and the small ones. Get the one you can afford. And I'm not going to say everybody go make offers. I'm that kind of guy. I know that's, maybe some people are more conservative. I love closing deals, making deals. And my advice is get the one you can afford right now. But long story short, to get back to your actual question, I love them all. I've got 5 bedroom all the way down to zero bedroom. And
Studio.
they both have, little studio, 550 square feet. And that was my third one ever, third short term years ago, the Smokies. And I love them. They're different animals. You got more personalities coming in and out of the big one, but you're going to make more money with probably less occupancy, which at the end of the day, a lot of folks are scared of that. Oh man, it's not as booked as much. I want to get the small one because I know it's going to be booked all the time. I understand that, but really at the end of the day, what you're doing is saying, I would like to work harder. Because you're dealing with more guests when you do it that way, So I love them. I love them both. I love big, small. Let's do it.
Yeah, they can work any way, can't they? I mean, it really comes down to supply and demand, right? Like in regards to the occupancy thing. I mean, if you're in a place where there's a lot of demand for short rentals or there's a lot of demand for big rentals, it all comes down to that equation. But they work all across the board, right? And what I love about the self-management model is that most all of these management principles, at least in my opinion, are pretty much the same, whether it's a big home or a small one. Yes, of course, you're going to be dealing with more guests. Maybe you have more issues with parties. You got to put some other things in place, but the principles are pretty much the same. What's your take on that?
The principles on
like
long-term
managing a small property versus a big one.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. It is the same. There's a few things that I'll give you a couple tips. So on the big properties, again, back to the personality thing, the dude that booked the house, he's in charge of like 10 other people, right? Or she, he or she, let's go with he, why not? And so all 10 of those people are barking at him. What room am I in? How does the Wi-Fi work? What's the TV? Blah, blah, blah. Where's the beach? How do I get to the hiking trail? All this stuff. So he becomes the damn travel agent. And that's annoying. And then he's like, dude, I don't know how I got signed up for this. I don't want to deal with all this crap. So that's where a guidebook comes in handy.
Totally.
If I can plug a guidebook, it's not rocket science. There's a bunch of them out there. I like Touch Day. There's Hostfully, You're Welcome, DAC. There's a bunch of them. And so I shoot that guidebook. That dude can share the guidebook with his whole group. And then they kind of get off his back a little bit if you got a good guidebook. But that's more work. A lot of people don't want to do more work. And guess what? Then you're probably not going to get the income that you need. This is simple math equation. Work equals cash, So but with the small ones, you get the trade-off of less personalities, and again, I used to be in the bar business way back in the day, and it's like everybody that walks through the door is a different personality, and it's exhausting. So the little ones are cool because you don't have to deal with that. But that being said, again, you're dealing with more bookings per year. It is technically going to be less humans in and out your door throughout the year on the small one, because you got all those 10, 12 people that you never deal with, but you're going to have, probably 20% or so, depends on your market and the size of the property. You're going to have higher occupancy. So you are dealing with more actual reservations, more reviews, that kind of thing. And then really, the cool thing about single family short term, one of the many cool things about it, the coolest thing is a 30-year fixed. I mean, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Even though they suck right now, it's still better than you can't get a 30-year fixed on any other asset class, really, so single family. But what was my point? Oh, with a single family large short term, 4, 5, every time you add a bedroom, you're adding a family. So it's almost like multifamily, but only want 30-year fixed loan, as opposed to going out and buying a 10-unit apartment building where your loan terms aren't going to be as awesome. Of course, then you do get a cap rate and an NOI on a apartment building, so that goes that direction a little bit depending on the way you look at it, and you can bring in other people's money a whole lot easier on an apartment building. But so yeah, it's almost it's a gateway drug, So once you get up into that 4 or 5 range, 6 bedroom range, first of all, it costs way more money. So, if you're going to continue down that path, you'll probably end up in commercial real estate. All
Mhm.
roads, Tim, you know this, all roads lead to commercial real estate. If you stay in this business long enough, you're going to get into a
Mhm.
hotel. You're going to get into I like long-term. So I did the
I do too. I
apartments.
do too. Mhm.
I did apartments instead of hotels, but it was the same thing for me. We got to the point at one point years ago, I said, Avery, I can't do any more short terms. Back when I had a day job and I was just hammered all the time. I was so busy. I said, I can't do it. And I don't know, I put them with a manager. That's stupid. So we went back to long term. And then eventually we brought in some more short terms. And then eventually I said, I can't do any more single families. Let's go get an apartment building. And then we went from there.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, good old real estate, right? Gotta love it. I think the cool thing about it is it's just the only investment class that I know of. Maybe there's someone out there that knows of a different one, but it's the only one that I know of that no matter where you are in life or whether you own the property or you're renting it, everyone is somehow financially connected with real estate. Whether their parents are owning the home and they're staying in their parents' home, or they're renting, or whether it's a short-term rental or a long-term rental, or whatever happens to be. And so, I love that about real estate. It makes me feel a little more secure. It's a great asset class, and a lot of good stuff today, Luke. A lot of great tips. I know you've got much more that we could jump into, but as we kind of wrap this up, wanted to ask you real quickly. The title of the podcast is Short-Term Rental Riches, and a lot of times when people hear the word rich, they think of just the financial side of it. But that's not all life is about, right? Not just finances. So wondering if there's something in your life that maybe a new way that something new that you've implemented, or a new way that you're doing something that's really impacted your life in a non-financial sense.
Yeah, I thought about this, and I didn't come up with a good answer. But so I'm going to go a couple different directions. Number one, physical fitness obviously is huge for me. Well, the kids in the family are always number one. Period. My daughter just turned 5, and it's incredible.
Okay, that's cool.
So that is it. Period. But as far as like selfish stuff, I'm a huge runner,
Oh,
and
cool.
running is real. I owe, in my opinion, my work ethic, or maybe they go hand in hand, to the discipline that running has taught me. I've done 27 full marathons. It's my thing. I do it every morning, and I get out there and I listen to books and crush it, and or at least I feel like I'm crushing it. And yeah, and so I owe a lot of debt of gratitude to running and what it's taught me, as far as discipline is concerned. And I don't know, the yoga, I think that's probably more your style. It seems like you're a very spiritual guy. And I am into yoga as well. I actually just finished Deepak Chopra's new book. It's not that new. It came out last fall, called Abundance,
Nice.
which was wonderful. You didn't ask me for a book recommendation, but
book
yeah,
recommendations always welcome. Always welcome.
Well, I'll throw another one at you. Speaking of rich, is Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. That book got me out of the I'm supposed to be poor for the rest of my life thing, because that's kind of how I was raised, where you just we're never gonna have money, and it's just the way it is. So that's another book suggestion. You didn't ask me, but I love books.
No, I love books too. Yeah, it's amazing how I try to read every morning. It's amazing how you can pick up a book and you can learn someone's life lessons in just one book. Someone could spend their whole life researching just one topic, and then they share it all with you in one book. And so they're just super I love them. Yeah. Well, awesome having you on today, Luke. Tons of great advice. I loved all of it. The running too is fantastic. Also, I also try to run quite a bit, and that runner's high that they talk about is a real thing. It's a lot of times when I'm dreaming about the things that I want to achieve as well. And so, well, how can everyone find you? You guys have a lot of good resources out there. What's the best way for someone to connect with you guys?
Yeah, we're around, short-term shop, obviously. Avery's real easy to find. And in my podcast, Short-Term Rental Management. I'm not really much on the social media. Avery handles all that stuff, or somebody does anyway. I don't know, but you can email me, Luke@theshorttermshop.com. I would be more than happy to talk to anybody. And I'm a big fan, Tim. Appreciate you having me on. And thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks again. And thanks again for the professional radio voice. That's much appreciated.
Yeah, I had to work on that. It took a lot of, I was just kidding. It just happened. Cool. But anyway, thank you, man.
Until next time. Thanks, Luke.
Thank you.
Take care.
I've dedicated years figuring out how to manage my personal portfolio remotely. And it wasn't always easy, and it took a long time. But now, my amazing team can professionally manage my properties without me. And good news, our team can also manage yours. Let us save you the stress and headaches and some money by offering you an industry low fee. To find out more about partnering with us, head to strriches.com, hit the property management button, answer a couple quick questions, and meet with me personally. That's strriches.com. Rest easy knowing that with my team, your properties will be in excellent hands.